Okay. So just based simply on the abstract, it seems to state that there is higher risks, obviously, if you're self-prescribing, but one of their solutions to this is we advocate for clinicians to be aware of the phenomena and proactively help TCNC people, or TGNC people, transgender and non-conforming individuals, by inquiring about self-prescribing of hormones, providing information and referring to the most appropriate treatment center, as well as encouraging a public debate on discrimination and the stigma the TGNC population suffer from overall. Overall, there's an urgent for a need of implementation of different initiatives. So it seems like their prescription is to get people into centers. I don't know when they say significant risks. I'm not sure if they're actually pulling the numbers. Please don't debate Zerka. If the Earth is flat, you'll lose. Okay. Huge props. I'm assuming probs. I don't know. One of the things in the study is the risk-taking behaviors associated with self-diagnosing / self-obtaining. Also, people are literally just ordering shit online with no idea whether it's legit. Right. And so these are all things that I'll address. This has all started because this person misrepresented Destiny's view on the issue. I know. He said he's fine with self-diagnosis as a last resort if people are going to commit suicide. Otherwise, his main issues was brag. I know. So I'm going to bring that up. The reason why I wasn't pushing typically back on any of this prior to it getting to this stage was because that wasn't the purpose of being here. They said specifically that they didn't have, specific arguments against, several of the claims that they had made, like specific arguments of why they didn't like Destiny, why they believed Destiny was misogynistic. My whole point was to kind of, make the bridge the gap. But I think, unfortunately, this has now gotten into a point of, this is kind of anti-vax shit, unfortunately, I believe. So, yeah, we have to do.
I had to wake when they want.
Okay.
So, what are you having for breakfast? What are you having for breakfast? Do you want to tell everybody?
A donut.
A donut?
That's
Is that what you're
adorable.
having for breakfast?
Yep.
Awesome. Love you.
Love you.
So, yeah, sorry. Got to get her ready for school.
Okay. So, so the shit that I'm looking at states, at least in the abstract, that there seems to be the uncontrolled use of hormones poses significant health hazards which have not been previously reported in literature. And essentially what it goes on to say is there's significant risks and health hazards that come with self-diagnosis because people don't understand what they're doing, they're not well informed, and that the thing that they recommend is for people to direct those individuals that might seek self-treatment to people that might that would could help them, like whether it be a clinic or what have you, that could give them more information on the issue or direct them to a medical professional.
So studies from 2018, and who was it done?
I don't know. And Antonio, Mr. It's. Wait, are you asking who it's by?
I was asking who did this study. Can I have the
Yeah.
PCMID?
So I'll just link it to you.
Okay. PMC 5977079. Okay, let me take a look at this. I should state that I'm not an actively practicing or licensed medical professional, so I'm not going to tell anybody one way or another.
Yeah, so
I'm not going to tell them what they can't do, and I'm not going to tell them what I think they should do either.
So I think the whole point of people arguing what people should do just has to do with the probability of potential repercussions, right? So
okay, and this is also a UK study. There's the American Psychological Association guidelines. A significant number of these individuals often decide to undergo the process. The prevalence of the population of sought medical care is estimated to be.
So something I want to say before you get too deep into this, something I want to say is that Destiny made specific addendums in his argument that if you believe, did
okay,
my knowledge, and it makes sense.
I have been blocked.
Okay, so it was more specifically rather than an addendum, he elaborated on it, right? And his elaboration included a description of how if you believe that you're suicidal or what have you, and there's no other option, that you, like, obviously there's no other option. So, like, doing these things is something that you can do, but of course you should get informed and, you know, go through as proper channels as you realistically can. So,
why can't we inform ourselves?
I'm not gonna lie to you. At this point, this is getting to me to be like anti-vaxxer level, and I am not equipped to deal with these level. I'm
not an anti-vaxxer, really. Jesus.
I'm just letting you know from my perspective.
I get my second shot on the 9th. Like, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. What do you?
Okay,
what do you mean?
I'm just letting you know that that's where I am at right now in this conversation. It feels as though you are trying to push to me that average everyday people are just as capable of making these determinations, these medical determinations, as medical professionals, or data that we might have, even if it is from the UK, about the likelihood for individuals that self-medicate to potentially hurt themselves. And I typically refuse to engage in these kinds of argumentation because the level of evidence required is beyond that of what I typically feel capable. So, like, this, the information provided to you, in my opinion, should be enough for us to, at the very least, put a lull in the conversation and then perhaps come back. But I highly recommend you talk to somebody else that's more capable of being able to argue this point than me, if you have any inquiries about it.
Okay, well, before I go, despite the availability of such clinical guidelines that invite TGNC, individuals still do not receive the care they often need because of stigma, discrimination, and lack of awareness in healthcare settings. A large population study from the 2014 behavioral risk factor surveillance system by Gonzalez et al. Found that TGNC adults were more likely to be uninsured and have unmet healthcare needs and were less likely to have routine care compared to cisgendered women. Reasons for such barriers to healthcare included discrimination in healthcare, health insurance policies, employment, and inadequate health policy and regulations. So, like, you know,
I don't think there's.
You were saying earlier that, like, you know, the average healthcare provider, like, is gonna know things. Like, you're also forgetting, like, we actually just had a thing come out where, like, 91% of the LGBTQ plus population is vaccinated. So, like, I would argue that when it comes to trans healthcare, when dealing with people that don't know anything about how to take care of me or might be discriminated against me, that I'm going to be somebody who is far more invested in learning about my own safety or finding an alternative, especially if there is discrimination actively blocking me, or if there are large-scale blockers, like multi-year-long waiting lists.
Can you tell me the difference between what you're doing right now and anti-vax? Allow me to say this. If I told you, right, that I'm more invested in me and my children's safety when it comes to coronavirus vaccines than a doctor, this is probably true. It is my number one priority. Is the single reason that I continue to breathe oxygen. If I get wiped off the face of the earth, and so do my children, the doctor will continue on breathing and just move on to another patient. And if I tell you all of the information that you just told me, I'm far more invested in it. And then I make the decision that it's not worthwhile to go through with the coronavirus vaccination. What is your response to that?
These things are not equivalent to one another.
What is your response to that?
I'm not going to give you one.
Right. So this is why
we're not doing this one. I'm not going to have you equate trans people taking care of themselves with fucking anti-vaxxers when I literally have gone and gotten the vaccine and 91% of the LGBT population has been vaccinated. I'm not going to have you trying to falsely make
so first things first, you don't speak on behalf of the LGBTQ population. I literally have several members inside of my chat room rolling right now at the fact that you're even making these arguments.
Fucking them. Oh my
So
god.
when you make the argument that 91% of the LGBTQ population is vaccinated, and you're trying to say that what I'm trying to say is that they're all anti-vaxxers, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is when you are making these arguments that you
Sorry,
are
92.
about... Okay, 92. Then when you're making the arguments that you are about how people taking their own hormones or what have you are not at a significantly higher risk for misdosages, wrong dosages, or self-harm or harming themselves with side effects or what have you, I think that is absolutely ludicrous. And when I push back on this, what you're trying to say is, well, what is the alternative? What, they just don't get care, so obviously there is no discrepancy. That doesn't logically follow. I can agree that there are some circumstances where there is no alternative. You got to do what you got to do. You have no money, you have no resources, you have no connections to be able to do these things. However, I can also understand that this comes with a significantly higher risk for harming yourself or adverse side effects because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Because a medical professional reading the same goddamn book talking about trans health as you is going to come out with a vastly greater understanding of the material than you ever will. Even you, as somebody that has trained inside of the military as a medical professional, even you, yes, a trained doctor of fucking 2, 4, or 6, or 8 years is going to come out with a vastly better understanding of the material than you. Chances are, and I'm willing to bet that 9 times out of 10 that like I'm going to double or triple my money overnight. I'd bet my house on it. That is the case. Okay? So that is what I'm pushing back against. That's what I'm saying is anti-vax shit. Is you might have a couple of situations where self-medication might have worked out for people that you know. So do anti-vax people. Anti-vax people have tons of people that they know who are fucking 80 years old, was near somebody who had corona and they didn't get corona. Whoop-de-fucking-do, all right? I don't fucking care. What we're talking about is the probability for that individual to have died of corona, catching corona, or what have you. That's what I give a fuck about. And that's what you're ignoring. And that's why I'm not going to lie to you, I'm getting a little bit upset in regards to this. I feel like we were having an amicable conversation, and then you took it to a place where it didn't need to go.
Well, okay. Sorry.
Okay. So
Then, yeah, I guess we can have another conversation another day then.
I mean, we can continue having this conversation. If you're done with it, we can be done with it, though.
I mean, I'm not gonna tell somebody who's struggling and suffering not to take care of themselves, and I would obviously tell them to seek proper medical advice if they could, and there wasn't discrimination and large blockers and things like that. And I would tell them to make sure that they self-inform as much as possible. But informed consent is the whole part of this anyway. Like you just get papers that tell you all this stuff and you have to sign off on it. Like I don't understand why people are trying to equate these things. I guess we just don't want trans people to get
No,
care.
it's so when you're talking about signing papers and stuff, you're talking about more legitimate ways. There are literally people that buy hormones, bootleg ass hormones online and try this shit fucking DUI style, goddamn fucking might as well be getting out the fucking rubber tube and wrapping it around their arm. It's draconian, some of the methods that some of these people resort to. And in situations where and that's a lot of people, that those people resort to, that shit can result in massive health hazards and shit that we would like to avoid to the best of our capabilities. That's what we're trying to do. Nobody's saying that those people can never get coverage. Even Destiny doesn't disagree with the idea that those people can't do.
Buy like hormones off of Amazon. But okay. All right. I don't appreciate being fucking called an anti-vaxxer when I've literally been vaccinated, but hey, whatever.
Okay.
So like, it is what it is, I guess. That I don't fucking appreciate, but I still think like, and if there are other LGBT people in the chat that want to have a conversation with me about this, fine, I'll have a conversation with them about it. But I would ask them, what would you do if you were in the situation where you had a medical system that wasn't taking care of you, that was discriminating against you, that was putting you on long waiting lists, and you were suffering? What would you do?
It depends on the necessary need, like the need for the care that I want. Like, if it's like a stub toe, I wouldn't fucking care. Like, who the fuck cares? It depends on the
Who cares, for
necessity.
sure.
It depends on the necessity of the care, and even Destiny agrees with this. If he said if you are gonna like fucking kill yourself, you should probably just do what you got to do. But like, barring that, barring like extreme circumstances, you should probably wait till you're available to get to a medical professional, or try your best to be able to get there through the main channels in order to avoid harming yourself.
Okay. I mean, so I mean, I was told that the risks to being on estrogen was like stroke and altered liver function and things like that when I sat down and did this, but I still made the decision. So if the medical professional is saying here is the risks of going on estrogen, possibly a stroke or a pulmonary embolism or altered liver function or whatever, and I still sign the document and do that, what's the difference between the medical professional doing that and me reading that and still making my own decision because I need to for my own care because no one will take care of me because again of discrimination or other blockers within the medical industry that is
What is?
stopping me
I'm
from
sorry.
getting the
What
care.
is the question?
What's the difference between the doctor handing me the paper that says this is the risk that you're going to have, sign it, and somebody reading the exact same thing and making their own decision?
Because you don't have the proper dosages for that risk, you don't have the capability of monitoring your own health for adverse effects as a result of taking those said dosages, and you don't actually have the understanding of how to administer those dosages, generally speaking,
Okay.
and nearly at the level that a medical
So
professional
are
would.
we telling, because with what you said with apparently what Destiny said, are we telling trans people either find someone who can help you or kill yourself? Was that what we're saying? Because I mean,
No.
you're the one that made the mention of Destiny saying something like, well, if you're going to kill yourself, you should probably just do what you got to do.
Oh,
So
sorry.
like,
I was referring to do what you got to do in reference to taking the hormones.
oh, okay, cool. Well, glad I misunderstood that one. And that was not what was intended on that. Good.
I
Because
think it.
I took that as the other. I took that as basically the other thing, which is just being like, well, if you're gonna kill yourself, you might as well just do it.
I
Like,
think I think that might. I don't know. I think you jumping to that conclusion was a little bit like illuminating as well. I don't know why you would have thought that would be, that's where your mind first went, but okay. I no, it's no. He said specifically that you should do what you got to do in regards to taking the hormones.
okay, that's all I'm saying is do what you have to do in regards to your own care if you have no other options and
See,
alternatives.
I respectfully disagree. I think your arguments are not.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't like your arguments logically.
Okie
Um.
dokie.
Okay. So we
I
can
mean,
get.
I'm still not an anti-vaxxer, but whatever. I guess that's the narrative that's going to be on this DGG subreddit later on today. Lady Rayne is a delusional anti-vaxxer.
Okay. So I just want to get back to the topic about reporting people in your community, because RTBA sent me a message that they had sent to smaller content or smaller communities about any misconduct that they might have experienced, and to talk to DGG-Admin, he is one of them, about it, so that way they can try and excise them from Destiny's community if there is evidence of misconduct. And so I think that this is not only RTBA said they would do as much, doubling down on that, but also this is evidence that RTBA is willing to do this and willing to meet. Yeah, so I think that DGG-Admins would be willing to work with you to be able to potentially verify and get rid of anybody in their community that might be pestering you to a level that meets merit with their guidelines. So yeah, there's that. I guess, even though we were massively on track, is there anything else that you can feel is like a massive point of disagreement that like I could try to my best to be able to bridge the gap of between you and DGG, or you and what have you, where I could illuminate it? Okay.
No, not really.
All right. So, could I at all get you to have a discussion with somebody on the takes that you had in regards to the uh, trans healthcare inside of the United States and self-medication? Could I direct you to somebody that would be more qualified to engage in that topic with you?
Not gonna happen today because the
Of course.
kid that people said is fake that you all heard has to get ready to go to school. So later on today, sure. Well, I wouldn't say it's not gonna happen today. It's just not gonna happen right now. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
because I need to go and get her ready for school and take her to school and stuff. So,
Okay.
and then after that, sure, maybe I'll be willing to talk to somebody. Sure.
All right. Cool.
So, does that sound like a plan then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
Cool.
reach out to some other people and see if somebody wants to
All right.
engage. Okay.
So, and okay.
All right.
Guess I'll just see how this goes too, because yeah,
Okay.
whatever.
All right.
Anyway, I've got to go and
Yep.
get her
Of
ready for
course.
school and everything. So
Yep. Yep.
see you later, Relly.
Yep. Bye. All right. Seemed like you wanted in regards to that situation, the medical situation.
Yeah, legitimately every single fucking thing that she said is everything that I heard while working as a farm tech from people who were anti-vaxxers. The whole I could buy, oh well, it's a virus. I could take X herb, and it's like, yeah, there's one study on this herb that you guys always cite that literally just shows that it's effective in preventing herpes in like 0.5% of cases. The other thing that I always fucking hate is when people are like, well, informed consent's the same thing as DIY. It's like, no. You go into an informed consent place, you sign papers that literally say, we're going to give you the maintainer standard dose, okay? But we're also not responsible for if you fuck yourself up catastrophically, like get a blood clot. Like that's the main reason why you need to get blood work done. That's the main reason why you need to get your liver checked. DIY is so last resort. You need to maintain specific levels and not get into territories where like you're literally giving yourself like DVT risks.
Yeah,
And
so I just want somebody to have a discussion with them about it because biology is my weakest point next to like foreign policy. So
oh yeah,
like obviously I'm not nearly as capable for this. I just have to go based on what like um you know the data that I've seen says, which pretty clearly elaborates that or illuminates that, self-medication in all fields is going to have significantly higher risk of, like, besides maybe band-aids. If you're bleeding, I think you necessarily need to, you can scratch your fucking finger. I don't think you necessarily, I don't know if the health risks are massively worse for you putting on a band-aid, but barring anything absolutely, juvenile like that, yeah, the self-medication seems to be universally worse than going to a medical professional.
yeah.
So.
I was going to say there were 3 points that I really, really would have loved to be answered. It's A, if self-medication is okay. If somebody feels depressed, are they allowed to just buy 500 milligrams of Prozac and give themselves serotonin syndrome?
Yeah. So yeah, that's why this is typically why I'm against self medication is because of shit like this. You get people that think that they have depression because they went through a breakup 20 minutes ago, and so they're looking for self medication, which is not really something that you should do because chances are you're not depressed. Chances are you're just grieving or sad. And it's not really something that you're going to be able to determine because you feel it like 20 minutes after. I imagine like most people have done this, like, oh, I'm so depressed, like, because, I don't know, you got your toy taken away when you were a fucking kid. So, yeah, that's typically why I argue against that shit, and we should have medical professionals do it because people are better trained at it. But, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say, buddy?
Yeah, I was also gonna say, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
when she said that you could buy hormones on Amazon, you literally cannot. You could buy analogs of those, but those do nothing. They're literally placebos.
Okay. I know nothing about this. It's your word versus theirs. I have no idea if this is true. Okay.
All right.
All right. You have a good one,
Have
buddy.
a good
Yeah.
one, Riley.
Yep. All right. Bye. Okay. All right. Hormones are super different to one has an obvious outcome. One is outrageously complex. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I feel like more or less. I know there was a lot of people in chat prior to that, and I know there's a lot of people that are gonna get hung up on that as the takeaway from the conversation. But there's a lot of I feel like prior to that there was I felt okay with not giving much pushback because the whole point, and I want to say it again because Jesus Christ, it feels like there's a lot of people that just miss the point of me having any of these discussions. The whole point of me having that discussion was trying to understand why some people that were of similar mind to Lady Rayne might believe that Destiny's community is a garbage community that is full of toxic people that just go out there and harass other people. That was the whole point. And so when they're making claims about like, DGG being misogynist or people in their chat being harassing them, I don't think it wise to be like, well, show me the evidence, show me the logs or what have you, because there's a lot of people that are under the belief, and to a degree, me as well, that a lot of these claims don't necessarily have concrete backing. Essentially, that a lot of the claims, not all of them, but a lot of the claims are not on good merit. So putting them in this position where they'd have to provide evidence for each claim and yada, 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 doesn't really illuminate why they believe what they believe. You could argue, and I would argue as well, it probably does good work at making it so that way most of the audience and people that might view it can understand why it might not be well-founded. But
at Ahrelevant, your unwavering stoicism is an example for us all to follow. Relly.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you for the 100 bits. The point of it, again, is to just try to understand that even in lieu of the information that we all believe is obvious, because what we see is somebody is obviously, generally speaking, obviously doesn't have any argument here, doesn't have an argument there, doesn't have an argument there, that doesn't do anything for us, because there's a lot of people that agree with that person. So the question is, why do they agree with that person in lieu of what we believe to be is evidence? We believe that we have the evidence, they believe they have the evidence. Why do they believe that they have the evidence? In comparison to why do we believe that we have the evidence? And I think that's an important thing to do, and I don't think you can do that without as essentially just breaking bread and just hearing them out of why they believe each one of the things. Obviously this isn't going to be universal, but it can help us to understand a little bit more, for sure. So, any questions? Thanks for talking with these people. I wanted to go harass people and abuse them, but now, okay, come on, man. Keep it above come on, man. They believe it because there's support and incentive structure around otherizing an enemy to collect around and shared agony of it. A very common thing. This is an online version. Sure. But what I mean is, I think there can be things that are done about the reasons why they do what they do, I think there is things for instance, the breaking bread on the Twitter situation, the breaking bread on this situation in regards to RTBA, reaching out to RTBA or other Destiny admins or what have you to be able to get potential people not only out of their community but also out of DGG and things like that I think are genuine solutions. And I think if people understand that even Destiny admins or Destiny himself are more amicable to getting people out of their community that go out and harass other people, if they exist, which I'm sure there's at least a couple. I don't think anybody would deny that, but the question is how many, right? And how is that represented? Getting them out of the community is honestly just better for all people, except for RTBA, who actually has to do work. You can definitely do things to try to discourage it, but I think Destiny already does everything he can, and I think it would be much worse if he didn't. I think most reasonable outsiders would see that Destiny fought to combat the notion Do you really think this chat was toxic during the combo, or you just can't build a bridge and push back on us being toxic now? No, I think that there was genuinely some people in here that was 100% being toxic. Taylor timed out some people. I'm not saying everybody. There were some people that were just saying you're a dumb fuck and shit, and I don't think that's bad. Honest, I don't think that's bad. I don't give a fuck about people calling them a dumb fuck. There were some people that were like going really fucking hard, and that shit's just fucking weird. There was 100% people being weird in this fucking chat. But yeah. Is this argument that the only way for the comment to be a threat and not a joke is if you think deer is a valid gender? From that perspective, I see how people lolling about it weren't cheering for harm. Right, so my whole point was supposed to be that there's people that believed that it was a legitimate death threat, and my whole point was if you don't believe that deer gender is a valid thing, and you believe that specifically if you don't believe deer gender is an actual thing, and you think it's absolutely ridiculous that people would fall in line with it, that you wouldn't be cheering on somebody making a death threat. That wouldn't be what you're doing. It wouldn't be a death threat at all. It would just be at worst transphobia, but from the other person's perspective, it would just be an edgy meme about somebody not having a gender identity that they want to respect. Is sometimes people's first experience of them, and it looks really bad. Right, Pixel, so that's why I say the rhetoric is really bad. When you wake up in the morning and you see a, Stephen Kenneth Destiny Bennell II tweet, you know that you're in for a shocker, because that shit's going to wake you up with a jolt, because you're going to have to, be like, wait, okay, so he didn't mean it this way, and shit like that. And I'm willing to, yeah. Kenneth, by the way, not Kenny, Kenneth. You know what I've thought about? I've thought about calling Destiny Ken. That'd be a funny meme. Yeah, guilty as charged, but if Rayne invokes the lol I got heated and goof card, then I'm sure as fuck going to as well. That's why I think that, in general, that shit's pretty cringe, and we should try our best to avoid it. Did you talk to Doe about what they thought? A little bit. They came into the chat room at one point, in text, not really that much, but yeah. Yeah, I did indeed talk with him a little bit about that shit, for sure. But yeah, I don't think is there any more questions on this before I move on? Thinking deer as a gender is transphobic is exactly what Nazis do to denigrate people by comparing them to animals. Well, that's your perspective, right? Her perspective would be different, obviously, and it doesn't really do anything to make that argument. I would argue that it's I wouldn't necessarily argue it does the same thing as Nazis because you're self-describing it, stuff like that. I just don't think that logically you can make an argument why I have to respect that nearly to the same level I would being a man, a woman, or non-binary, or what have you. I don't think you could ever make that argument realistically. So I don't think that you have the moral obligation to respect, neo-pronoun type beat. She said transracialism is used to mock trans people. Why would you say this but defend otherkin? Right, so I wanted to get to that, but again, this wasn't a debate stream. That's not what this was about. That's not what this is about, because that's what I was going to make the argument of. How is it disrespectful to trans people for me to say that I'm transracial, but not disrespectful to trans people to say that I'm a fucking tortoise, I don't know. It's I don't know. I mean, you could argue that that's pretty racist, but I don't know. I did. That's a meme though. It's worse if you're white. It's worse to identify as black than it is if you're white to identify as a tortoise. I don't know. The memes make themselves. But yeah. Anyway, what is this? Who is this? Why would you link this? Starting tomorrow, I'm wearing blackface and getting a dick implant. Poggies. Okay.